Hidden Object Guru here with a quick response video. Like a lot of people, I was recommended this wonderful video about how much the movie Saw cost. Not to make, but like to the character John Kramer. How much money did he spend sawing in the movie Saw? Really fun video, really enjoyed the presentation, but I kind of had some problems with it because A, the dude who made it missed a lot of stuff that would have cost money, and two, the dude who made it seems to not really have a good sense of what anything costs. So, again, great video, you should watch it, but I'm just going to quickly run through all of the things John Kramer would have had to pay for and how much they actually would have cost. Chain and plug, $3. LED keychain for the chain and plug, $5. Fishing bobber, $2. 10 feet of heavy chain, $50. 2 strong locks to put the chain on the pipe and the shackle, $40. And the shackle, $30. This mini tape recorder today is like $400 because it's a niche item, but back in the day you could get them for like $80. We see Jigsaw use 4 distinct ones in the movie, so we're going to call it $320. This revolver is, according to the Internet Movie Firearms Database, a Smith & Wesson Model 686, which at the time was about $700. 6 microcassette tapes that he uses over the course of the movie, $24. Dr. Lawrence Gordon's chains and locks cost the same as Adam's, so that's another $120. This nice clock on the wall should be about $60. We only see 1 bullet here, but you can't just buy 1 .357 Magnum bullet, so that'd be $40. 2 hacksaws at $15 a piece would be $30. In order to build this trap, Jigsaw has to build a cage out of chain link fence and a chicken wire separator between the razor wire section and the section the guy wakes up in. So that's 24 square feet of chicken wire for $16, 216 square feet of chain link fence for $180, and now it's impossible to say exactly how much razor wire is in this final chamber, but I feel like it's got to be about 300 feet just based on what we're looking at. I mean, to get any clearer, we just have to talk to the prop people who made it for the movie. So we're going to say 300 feet at $180. Then, of course, there's the light fixtures he strung up top, plus the bulbs, $40. The extension cord to run that to the building's power, another $30. This timer counting down the 2 hours he has to escape, $65. The automatic door locking mechanism for when the time runs out, $100. This next trap has a bunch of stuff in it, including an old safe, which is probably in the neighborhood of $500. The chains he used to hang the piece of plastic go for about $20. The plastic panel itself should be about $5. Candle, $1. 2 gallons of gasoline cost $5. A box of thickener to turn the gasoline into jelly, another $5. A gallon of red paint to paint the numbers all over the walls, $30. Also, were some of the numbers like glowing when the flame came up to them? I don't understand how he was supposed to get out of this one. That's not important though. John Kramer's classy, high-end leather-bound sketchbook, $50. Okay, now we get into the reverse bear trap, which, I mean, it's tough to say exactly how much this thing would cost. It's got a lot of moving parts. It required a lot of machining. There had to be a ton of trial and error and prototypes of it while he's developing the thing. I think all in, $3,000. I mean, that's just a guesstimation, but $3,000 from starting to build the bear trap to having the finished model he puts on Amanda's head, $3,000. This elaborate lamp, $100. Television. I know it's crazy, but this kind of CRT TV, I'm assuming he bought it used, but $100. The VCR he plays the tape on, $50. The Billy doll animatronic puppet. Now, not only does this puppet have the ability to ride a bicycle, it can turn its head, it's got a speaker in there, it can move its mouth while it's using the speaker, and it's not clear whether the speaker is always a tape or whether it's got a receiver so he can actually speak through it live in real time, which would make it even more expensive. But given the sheer amount of actuators and radio control materials, battery supply, all the wiring, Plus, the doll itself, probably not that cheap. Billy the doll, each instance of them, and we're going to see 3 in the movie, $2,000 each. Then, of course, we got a remote control for Billy the doll, $200. This plaster head model, $20. Sheet metal chair, $50. I don't think he paid for the rags, just like I don't think he paid for the broken glass in the last trap, so nothing. We should address all of the times he drugs people in the movie. Let's say he's chloroforming them, then injecting them with something. So we're going to say all in, all of the drugs and syringes that he uses for the whole movie, $500. Various people are told that they've been given a slow-acting poison for which there's an antidote. So we're going to say another $500 all in for every instance of that. This can only be a guesstimation because we have no idea what drug he uses, but you got to put down something because this wasn't free. As you can see, there's a metal wire on the back of the bear trap that sets off the timer. Jigsaw uses a lot of wire in the movie, so we're just going to say he bought a $20 spool of wire, and that counts for all of the trap wire he uses in the entire movie. 2 scalpels. One he uses to cut out the jigsaw pieces from people's flesh, and the one he gives Amanda to gut that man. So that's $20 each, so $40. And the tricycle, probably $50. This is going to sound crazy for today, but in order to have the technology to take a CCTV camera and then send the signal of that CCTV camera in real time across the city to Zepp Hindel's computer, that's going to run about $5,000. Speaking of Zepp Hindel, his gun is, according again to the Internet Movie Firearm Database, a Wilson Combat Protector model of the 1911, which should run him about $1,200. I honestly don't know if we should say that Jigsaw owns the building. I think he owns the doll factory at Stygian Street. The only dialogue about it is Tap's partner finds an old listing and says it's an abandoned doll factory. Now, the fact that it's an old and not a current listing suggests that at some point Jigsaw bought this factory using a shell company. I think Jigsaw bought this building to do all of his Jigsaw stuff in. And since in 2 we're going to find out he owns another building in town where he has his other Jigsaw lair, and he owns the house where Jigsaw 2 happens and the basement stuff from Jigsaw 1 happened, I mean, the dude owns property. So, 213 Stygian Street, we're going to say cost him $40,000. Now that might seem low to you for half a city block, but you got to remember, this is a depressed area, there's no industry in the town, and because it's in some kind of an industrial neighborhood, this would not be zoned for turning this into residential housing. So literally, legally you can't do anything with this building but turn it into a jigsaw workshop. And given that there's only 4 jigsaws at this point, you can say it's a buyer's market. John Kramer's probably nice design computer, so we'll say $1,500. There's a police radio, probably $150. A shortwave radio, $225, and a boombox for his tunes, $100. Let's say there's $20 worth of dolls and paint and fake tiles in this model he made. Here's our second Billy the Doll puppet for another $2,000. A Hollywood quality pig head mask, $500. Jeff's trap. So between the metalwork, 2 power drills, gears and controllers, the shackle, electric cable, start button, padlock, and miscellaneous wiring, all in, I'm putting this trap costs $250 to build. His awesome jigsaw costume, $300. His Assassin's Creed knife. Now again, this he built himself, but it's going to be a lot of prototyping, a lot of trial and error. He's got to get a bunch of sharp knives, he's got to get a bunch of springs, he's got to get a latching mechanism, he's got to make sure it doesn't accidentally cut him. So I'm saying trial and error, doing many iterations of this, all in, we're going to call it $300, the parts to make this kit. I may actually be lowballing this one, but I'm going to say $300 for the Assassin's Creed knife. And of course, how did he build all this stuff? He needs a welding kit at $400, a miscellaneous tool kit at $200, and an electronic soldering kit at about $50. 4 shotguns. He's got the double-barreled shotguns that kill Detective Tapp's partner. These are about $200 each, so we're going to call it $800 for the 4 shotguns, and another $40 for the shotgun shells. And finally in this scene, we discovered that Jigsaw was wearing a bulletproof vest at a price of $750. There's another shortwave radio for $225, a great big timer clock for $100, a satellite phone for $800, a police band radio for another $150, essentially the same computer that was in Jigsaw's lair, so another $1,500 there, $50 microphone, $30 headset. Jigsaw had to spackle this wall shut, so about $5. I assume he just reused the tiles he took down to make the hole. This metal box is about $10. The lock on it is $5. You can get that kind of Nokia flip phone for about $100. The lighter, $1. A pack of cigarettes, $5. Then we have Jigsaw costume number 2 for $300. Pighead mask number 2 for another $500. Now here's one that's a little tough to judge, because it turns out each of their shackles around their ankles has the innards of a stun gun in them that's been like miniaturized and wired in. So that must have cost a bunch in parts. So I'm going to say $250 per shackle to turn it into a shock shackle, or a shockle, for a total of $500. And then he needs a miniature remote control that he can work while he's pretending to be a dead body on the floor. So we're going to call that $80. Then we've got Adam's apartment and Billy Puppet number 3 for another $2,000. And in this final scene, we see that, yes, Zepp Hindle's gun was loaded, so that's another $50 for the bullets in that gun.
And then, of course, there's the final reveal in which we discover that Jigsaw had a Hollywood-quality latex wound on his head and a bunch of fake blood for another $600.
All told, that means in $2,004, everything John Kramer did cost roughly this much money. And now let's just quickly adjust that to $2023. Okay, so that is what John Kramer had to spend in the movie. Alright, so that's the response video. Hopefully it wasn't too catty. It was ridiculous, though. I'll see you back here whenever I decide to get real petty again. But until then, I'll say that's right. Au revoir.